Okay, good evening, everyone. The time is 7:02 and the Board of School Directors Legislative Meeting is called to order. At this time, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Evans, if you can do the roll call, please.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Franczyk.
Present.
Mr. Henderson.
Present.
Ms. Ioannidis.
Present.
Dr. Levinowitz.
Present.
Mr. Robsky.
Present. Present.
Ms. Sherpier.
Present.
Mr. Sirota.
Present.
Mr. Wallach.
Mr. Wallach, you're muted. You may be frozen.
Ms. Evans, can you move on to the next person?
Yep. Dr. Davis, I see that you're.
Present.
Mr. Wallach.
Present.
Thank you. All present.
Thank you. We do not have a Student Government Association report tonight. We look forward to our new representative in maybe August, but probably not until September. So at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Yanni if he would give his superintendent's report, followed by agenda item number 4, presentations.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Well, first, we'd like to say a final congratulations to the class of 2021. We had a beautiful graduation ceremony on the 10th of this month. We had an absolutely beautiful ceremony and evening after having to postpone graduation one day. This evening, the board will affirm the list of graduates. For everyone's knowledge, this is a procedural step required by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. This evening, we're also asking the board to approve the district's health and safety plan for the upcoming school year. Districts are required to approve and submit to the Pennsylvania Department of Education a health and safety plan in the form presented as a component of the planning for the 21-22 school year. Further, the approval and submission of the plan is a prerequisite to receiving elementary and secondary education relief American Rescue Plan funds. The plan is flexible enough to align with CDC recommendations, which will likely evolve over time. If last year taught us anything, it taught us that health and safety information is ever changing. Recommendations in place today may change tomorrow or the next day or 2 weeks from now. To ensure that our community is informed of recommendations by health agencies, our parents, guardians, families, and community members should expect updates during the weeks of June 28th, July 12th, July 26th, August 9th, and August 23rd. Also on the agenda tonight is a memorandum between the district and the Upper Dublin Township Police Department. It will become part of the district's emergency response plan and an administrative regulation to policy 225. This MOU articulates when and how we interact with the police department when we need to call the police. And what we're really happy about is as the district has continued its focus on restorative discipline and restorative practices, the mandated MOU now explicitly references restorative practices, and the Upper Dublin Police Department are also very much on board with restorative practices as well. So we're really thankful for that. Also on the agenda for tonight are 2 reports by the Educational Advisory Committee, the EAC. Semester electives and effectively engaging community groups are the 2 reports that our leadership team will consider as we're planning for the future. On the agenda tonight, there is a motion to approve work related to the transportation feasibility study. The motion authorizes Dewey Engineering to complete the following work: to do some geotechnical investigation based upon the schematic design, and to identify any subservice limitations, and to create a sketch plan and submit that to the Upper Dublin Township to identify any zoning impacts. Please know that the board will not take any action on this motion tonight, nor is there a timeline for when the board will take action on any work related to the feasibility study. There's some conjecture in our community that the board is going to take some significant action in August, but there's no timeline in terms of moving forward with anything with regard to the feasibility study. To conclude my report tonight, we will watch the winter and spring athletic recognition video. We congratulate all of our student athletes being recognized in this video this evening. Ms. Evans, you can go ahead and play the video.
We do not, or I do not hear the audio.
Ms. Evans, I can't hear it either.
All right, there you go. Thank you.
Ms. Evans, we still cannot hear the video.
No audio.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ms. Evans, we can't hear anything other than.
Yeah, is there a way for us to maybe figure that out and bring it back later in the agenda? Dr. Yanni?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, Ms. Evans, if maybe we can figure it out behind the scenes, and then we'll bring that back at a later point in the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we are up to our first opportunity for community input. This is for action items and presentations included in this evening's agenda. Please note that the issue regarding the feasibility study has been tabled for consideration tonight, and we'll take comments regarding that during our second community input. So again, this is for residents and taxpayers of the Upper Dublin School District. I'm going to ask Ms. Evans to please call on you after you have raised your virtual hand. You have 4 minutes to speak, and she will monitor the time frame. Ms. Evans, you can begin when you're ready.
Okay. Please raise your virtual hand if you'd like to make a comment. Ms. Burns, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Brooke. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
My question is, Dr. Yanni, I just wanted to see if you could point us to where on the Upper Dublin website the health and safety plan is, just for those parents and community members that are not able to make this call tonight. So if you could just show us, I just tried to dig around real quick. I know it's in the last touch base Tuesday, but I just couldn't figure out where you would be putting that now. That would still go under the coronavirus, the COVID kind of communications, or if you're gonna retitle that possibly for next year and move it to a different sort of category under maybe health and safety. I don't know. So if I can't find it, I apologize, but if you could point us to that, that would be helpful. And then second, in regards to that plan, I know, and you mentioned that it's tied to funding for COVID relief funding. So if you could help us understand what that funding will be. I think we have to be approved for that funding. How much will Upper Dublin get? And then again, if you could help us understand what we're going to do with that money, as well as the past COVID money that we've gotten. And if there's a plan yet in place. I realize that you don't have to spend the money for a certain amount of time, but I think having that plan started, parents could see where the money is going to be spent, and that it's not being taken out of taxpayers' money, that COVID relief funds is being used for specific COVID issues. For example, a teacher spot. I know that there's a new teacher spot that's being hired, I believe, over the summer, and I don't know the title of it. For those that qualify for schooling due to possibly issues that they weren't able to keep up with due to the quarantines and staying home, that type of thing. Or is it going to go to more PPE, or is it going to go to the app, the RuveNet app that I believe we're spending $12,000 on for the next school year? Is that money going to go to that? So that would be just helpful to see if we have a plan yet for this money, where we're spending the money that we've already gotten, and what we're going to be spending this new money on as it applies to this new health and safety plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Vitella, go ahead.
I just have to say that, Ginny Vitella Ambler, I just have to say I'm a little confused about how something's on the agenda, which I'm sure there's community members on this phone call, because I can't see them because we're still virtual for meetings. And I'm still a little confused how something's on the agenda that's presented. There's community members that are very concerned, want to share those concerns. And now they're being told 2 minutes before the meeting starts or before community input, they can't speak about the bus depot. That is very confusing, and I find that a little disingenuous. This is a 20-page agenda printed out, and it's going to be another long meeting, presumably, like it was last Thursday night, where you lost people because they had to leave. There's community members that are very concerned, want to take their full 4 minutes to speak, and it is a shame that somehow something just changed within the last 3 minutes that they can't speak in this community input. That's all.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands.
Okay. Give it a minute.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Ms. Watt, go ahead.
Hello, this is Julia Watt from Fort Washington. I have a high schooler, middle schooler, and Fort Washington Elementary School student, resident of Fort Washington for over 10 years. I, as well as Mrs. Vitella, find it extremely disrespectful to community members. As we take time away from our day, we volunteer for numerous other positions, just as you board members volunteer for this. And when we have something outlined, we stick with it. When questions are asked as volunteers, as coaches and team management, we answer those questions. I was out on a bike ride on a summer evening with my kids, came in a few minutes late, and now I'm completely thrown off. This is so disrespectful to your community. You know that there is a petition out there for a bus depot. You know the deep, deep concern that we have in regards to the safety of our children, to our environment, and you changed this last minute. I'm speaking for so many hundreds of people that in the past 48 hours have signed a petition that are deeply, deeply concerned. And I just have to say, it's just so disrespectful. I truly, truly hope that we don't have to sit through another 2-hour meeting to have any voices concerned on something that's on the agenda. I had to leave the other night because I planned a parent-run a celebration for our 8th grade students who had a very, very difficult year. And I had to leave the meeting to be volunteering as I helped plan that, and as did many others. So I truly just, I'm voicing my utter I don't even know what to say. It's just so disrespectful. Thank you.
Are there any other comments at this time?
Yes, I see another hand. Go ahead, Miss Benson Watlington.
Yes, hi, this is Nikki Benson Watlington, Orland. I just want to say to everyone on the board and everyone in charge, thank you for this year. I know you get a lot of complaints and everybody has feelings on all sides, but we've never been faced with a pandemic. We've never been in charge of a school district. I know it's tough to make choices for my own children, much less thousands of others that aren't mine. And I just want to say that you've handled this year relatively well. You've created options for parents, for those who are comfortable sending their children back. I appreciate you for that. And you've also created options for those who aren't ready to send their children back. And I appreciate you for that. You can't please everyone all the time, but you can please some most of the time. So I just want to say thank you and commend you for this year. You've created new programming. You've done the best you could with what you have. I respect you, I appreciate you, and I applaud you. So thank you.
Thank you. Any more hands?
I don't see any more.
I don't see any as well. All right, we'll close community input at this time. And I will invite the administration as well as any board members if they have comments to any of the questions that were asked.
So there was a question about where the health and safety plan is and where it will be. Right now it's linked to the agenda. If it gets approved this evening, there where it says coronavirus communications, it will go under that tab. It'll, on the main page of our website. The full text of the plan will be housed there. The plan is flexible enough, as I said, to evolve as recommendations evolve. Regarding the money that was spent from the last round of stimulus funds, the ESSER funds, Mr. Leckman goes over those each month in finance. We can make sure that that is put somewhere in a prominent place on the website. Regarding the American Rescue Plan money, I believe we're slated to get just over about $1 million. The plan right now, we know the two big buckets of money that we're going to get. Part of it has to go for learning loss, or what we're calling unfinished learning. The other piece is going to go to other needs in the district. Last week, all districts learned of some stakeholder engagement processes that we have to put in place to develop the plan of how to spend that money. So through those regular communications that I talked about in my superintendent's report, there will be more money coming out as a result of that. Believe it or not, the information and the dollar figures continue to evolve even from one week to the next. So once we get final allocations and we know what stakeholder engagement needs to look like, we'll be building processes for that stakeholder engagement so that we can bring out a draft plan or direction of where we want to go with the funding. Regarding the removal of the agenda item tonight, I believe, and I believe Mr. Sirota and perhaps Dr. Davis or Mr. Wallach will affirm this. There were a number of questions that were asked last week from community members, board members, and administrators to Arif Fazil. And in order to move forward, we really need to be able to get some of those answers. So with that, I'll, if Mr. Sirota or Dr. Davis or Mr. Wallach, if you would like to add on anything.
Mr. Sirota.
Thanks. Yeah, certainly no disrespect meant. In fact, it seems like it would be more disrespectful to just push ahead without pursuing the additional research that that the committee and the board and the administration and the community wanted us to pursue. So it was on the agenda because we were hopeful we could get through it, but it was only last Thursday that we had that meeting. There's only been, roughly a business day and a half to complete what we wanted to complete, and it just wasn't enough time. So frankly, we're just not ready. And the administration is continuing to pursue those sorts of questions as well as additional options, because as you're probably well aware, the feasibility study bottom line was not what we were hoping it was going to be. So certainly no disrespect meant. We're just taking our time and being careful about it. There's no timeline. We'll I hope that we'll have a lot more to say about this the next time the finance committee gets together.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, agenda item 7, the minutes. On May 17th, we had our legislative meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Sirota and Dr. Levinowitz, thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? The minutes are approved. We also had committee minutes. This is just an information item. We had the minutes of the May 5th Education Committee, the May 5th Policy Committee, and the May 13th Finance Committee. Those minutes were approved by the committees and are included on the agenda as an information item only. At this time, I'm going to ask Mrs. Sherpier if she will take number 8, the Education Committee Curriculum Recommendations.
Sure, thank you, Dr. Davis. And I think we have 3 items, A, B, and C. Item A is just for information, enrollment. So I would like to propose that we approve items B and C as listed. So that is conferences and student activities.
All right, thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
Second. Oops, sorry.
I think I heard Ms. Franzik. I'll take her second. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? The motion carries. Ms. Sherpier, the technology recommendations.
Yeah, we have one item there, the Schoology Lms Renewal. And again, I would recommend that we approve a 1-year renewal of Schoology.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Ms. Franzik, there's a second. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Again, the motion carries. And Ms. Sherpier, how about the student services recommendations?
Yes, there are 5 items, A through E. 2 are software related, and the other 3 are educational agreements. And I think we can take all 5 for approval.
Okay, she has moved for consent approval of A through E. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Ms. Franzik, seconded. Any questions or comments? Again, all those in favor?
Dr. Davis, Dr. Levinowitz's hand is up.
I see it. I see it. Dr. Levinovitz.
Item B is new. I thought perhaps Dr. Yanni can provide some background for that.
Yes, item B is our Infinite Campus Renewal. It's our student information system. It's an annual motion. So we're, for continuity of services, to continue with Infinite Campus moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I think we're prepared to vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, let's see, we are to the Finance Committee recommendations, Mr. Sirota.
Thank you. As is normal for June, we have approximately a gazillion items under the Finance Committee, and I'll take them in groups. First up, item A is our 2021-2022 final budget. I will make the motion, and after a second, I'll make a brief comment.
Okay, Mr. Sirota has made a motion on the final budget and funding resolution. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Mr. Henderson, second. Are there any questions or comments?
So I'd just like to call everyone's attention to the final bottom line. The recommended budget does have a tax increase of 2.47%, just under the amount we discussed last week, as we recommended at the end of the meeting last week. So it's a 2.47. Last week, the number was 2.50. That's my only comment.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments before we vote? Okay, I would just like to thank the administration. We discussed the 2.5 last week. We asked you to do some more work, and we do appreciate that you've been able to bring it down, even more. And so we truly are grateful for the work that you've done throughout this whole budget season in terms of presenting these numbers every month to us so that, we weren't looking at anything at the last minute. So thank you, and job well done. So all those in favor of approving the final budget and the funding resolutions, please indicate through.
We need a roll call.
Please indicate through roll call. I'm going to ask Ms. Evans if she will call the roll.
Yes. Please indicate by saying yes to the motion as presented. Ms. Franczyk.
Yes.
Mr. Henderson.
Yes.
Ms. Ionetti.
Yes.
Dr. Levinowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Ropsky.
Yes.
Ms. Sherpier.
Yes.
Mr. Sirota.
Yes.
Mr. Wallach.
Yes.
Dr. Davis.
Yes.
Okay. 9 yeses. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sirota, you can continue.
Thank you. So item B has been withdrawn. Next up, I will take items C, D, E, F, and G together. I'd like to, I'll mention that item E was not discussed last week, but it is our regular monthly payments item. And so I'd like to make a motion to approve items C, D, E, F, and G.
Is there a second?
I second.
Mr. Ropsky, second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you. Next up, item H is the transfer to capital reserve that we discussed. We've discussed a couple of times in the Finance Committee. So I'd like to, this will require a roll call vote, but I'd like to make a motion that we approve item H.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Mr. Henderson, are there any questions or comments? We did all comment at the Finance Committee meeting, so I don't know if anyone has anything additionally to add. Seeing none, the question, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Actually, roll call, please.
Oh, roll call. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Please indicate yes upon roll call of the motion as presented. Ms. Frantic,
Yes.
Mr. Henderson,
Yes.
Ms. Ianetti,
Yes.
Dr. Levinowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Rapsky,
Yes.
Ms. Sherpier,
Yes.
Mr. Sirota,
Yes.
Mr. Wallach,
Yes.
Dr. Davis.
Yes.
9 yeses. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, we did discuss last week in the Finance Committee to increase the commitment for real estate assessment appeals to $1.5 million. I would like to make that motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Mr. Rofsky, second. Are there any questions or comments?
Roll call again, please, Dr.
Okay,
Davis.
Ms. Evans, if you can please call the roll.
Yes, thank you. Please indicate by saying yes to approve the motion as presented. Ms. Frantic,
Yes.
Mr. Henderson,
Yes.
Ms. Ianetti,
Yes.
Dr. Levinowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Rapsky,
Yes.
Ms. Sherpier,
Yes.
Mr. Sirota,
Yes.
Mr. Wallach,
Yes.
Dr. Davis.
Yes.
Thank you. 9 yeses.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, I'm going to take items J through V. All of them were discussed at last week's marathon meeting. So I will make a motion for that set.
Again, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Mr. Henderson, are there any additional questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you. And last, I'd like to make a motion to approve items W through II.
Okay, is there a second to consent?
I second that motion.
W through I, double I. And Mr. Robsky,
I second it.
second.
Yes, I second it. Yes.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? The motion carries. Whew. All right. Thank you, Mr. Sirota. There's a lot to get through. Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Levinowitz if you will handle the personnel report and recommendations.
Yep, we're going to take the entire personnel report, consent. I will make the motion to approve items A through F in the personnel report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Sirota, are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you. And at this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Yanni if he would like to comment on the new hire.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Davis. So on tonight's personnel report, our new athletic director was hired. And Ms. Evans, if you could make Matthew Highland a panelist so that he could speak if he is on the call, so that he can introduce himself to the community.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Ms. Evans, did you make,
Yeah, he's on. He's on.
All right, well, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to get started at Upper Dublin, within the school district at the high school. And, everything has been, I know a lot about the Upper Dublin School District. And as I said, I'm really excited to hit the ground running and help promote our student athletes to the best I possibly can and do the best I can with our programming at the high school.
Well, again, we just want to welcome you to Upper Dublin. We're excited to have you on board with us and for the things that you'll do to support, our families and our students. So again, welcome. We can't wait to meet you in person and work shoulder to shoulder with you. So any other comments?
just that we would like to welcome Mr. Hyland. And as you said, Dr. Davis, we look forward to him being here on site. We'll be working on a transition plan with his current superintendent so that we can transition him over officially to Upper Dublin.
All right, thank you. Welcome aboard. At this time, Ms. Franzik, if you can handle the policy committee recommendations.
I can do that. This is nothing quite like finance. So an easy agenda this evening. I'd like to make a motion to approve our second readings for this month. All of these items have previously been discussed at the policy committee. We have policies 206, 216, and 248 for approval this evening.
Second.
Mr. Sirota provided a second. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Wallach, other business.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. We have a number of items of other business tonight, many of which Dr. Yanni referenced in his report. So I'm going to do them in three groups. So first, I'm going to take letter A, which is the Upper Dublin High School graduating class of 2021. Graduation was a tremendous event. And I will make a motion to affirm the list of the 2021 high school graduating class from Upper Dublin as listed in the program list. And it also notes on there the National Honor Society members.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Ms. Sherpier, thank you. All those in favor, are there any questions? We were all there, so I don't know if there are any questions or comments. All right, we're ready to vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And I can't imagine anyone would be opposed. So thank you for your votes.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Next, I'm going to take item B by itself, which is the district health and safety plan. Again, Dr. Yanni gave an introduction to that in his superintendent's report, and the plan is attached to the agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the Upper Dublin School District Health and Safety Plan as stated, as attached to the agenda.
Again, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second.
I think I heard Mr. Henderson first there. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Okay, Ms. Ionity.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that this is a living document and we are following, it does say in here that we'll be looking at the guidance. If it changes, things might change. And I appreciate that our administration is being flexible and thinking of safety first for our students.
Thank you for saying that, Mrs. Ionity, and exactly right. I mean, one of the things we're still, 2 months from coming back or bringing kids back to school. So we want to be as flexible, but if or when anything changes in the plan, we will make sure that the community is updated.
Thank you. And again, I know people are wondering where they will find that information, but the fact that you had shared dates earlier this evening where they'll be able to get updates will be very helpful as we go through the summer. So thank you for that. Any other comments? Okay, I think and who did the second on that? Mr. Henderson, or did I ask for it? Okay, Mr. Henderson, I thought so. Okay, we're ready for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
And next, another business, I'm going to take items C, E, and F together as one motion, but I'm going to just outline them real quickly because two of them were referenced previously and one was not. Item C is a motion to appoint Dr. Davis and Mr. Henderson as the voting delegates for the 2021 PSBA Delegate Assembly. They have graciously agreed to represent the district at that PSBA meeting, and we'll have that motion. And then I'll join with that letters E and F, which are the two EAC reports that have been submitted, and make a motion to accept both of those reports, the first being semester electives and the second being effectively engaging community groups.
Mr. Wallach, we can't hear you. Mr. Wallach, we lost you for a minute. So
I'm sorry.
we lost you at the very end. So can you just make your motion again?
Sure, Dr. Davis, I apologize. I think my internet cut out. The motion is items C, E, and F.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Sherpier, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the motion?
I'd like to make a comment about the EAC reports. The EAC presented their reports last week at a meeting. I hope that we'll have a chance to read the reports, and I would like to thank the members of the EAC for their work.
Thank you. Any other, Mr. Sirota?
I just want to echo not just the thank you, but an appreciation for the EAC who have been over time working to improve their processes so that their reports are more timely and actionable than they may have been in the past. And that seems to be working effectively. And so I think that's great for us and great for everybody. So thank them for that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. And your last item, D?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Davis. Item D is just informational. Dr. Yanni referenced it in his superintendent's report. It's the memorandum of understanding between the Upper Dublin Police Department and the Upper Dublin School District for 2021 to 2022. And so that item is just there. We don't have to take action on it, but it's presented. And as Dr. Yanni said, the continuous use and emphasis on restorative practices is greatly appreciated.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Item number 15 is our liaison committee reports. That's an information item. I do thank all the board members for their work throughout the year, working with the various committees and getting those reports in so that we can keep the community updated as to what's happening in those areas. Mr. Diazio, do you have a solicitor's report?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Davis. First part of my report this evening is the Sunshine Act announcement, as it usually is. The board did meet in executive session this evening prior to tonight's public meeting from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock to discuss matters of personnel, which were approved on the agenda this evening, and also to discuss matters of litigation involving tax assessment appeals. In addition to that, I'll note that we're now reaching the end of June, and this is, as all of you know, it's a busy time for our state legislature as they wrap up their budget. And we frequently at this time of the year is when a lot of legislation impacting public schools and changes to the school code come through. So we haven't seen any of that or much of that legislation get across the finish line yet, but we are anticipating some changes in the coming weeks, and we'll keep you posted on changes that will impact the school district through both our written correspondence and then also through our solicitor's report at future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, we are at our second opportunity for community input. Again, this is for residents and taxpayers of our township. So if you would like to speak, please raise your virtual hand. Ms. Evans will acknowledge you when it's your turn to speak and monitor the 4-minute time limit. So again, Ms. Evans, when you're ready, we can begin.
Dr. Davis, there were 2 written comments received. Would you like me to take them first or save them until the end?
Let's go through our folks that have been waiting to speak, and then you can provide those at the end.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Watt, go ahead. If you could unmute.
Yes,
ahead.
thank you.
Thank you.
Julia Watt, Fort Washington. In September 2018, our Upper Dublin community rallied together and over 1,300 residents signed a petition to urge our school board to not build a bus depot behind Fort Washington on the Field of Dreams. Almost 3 years later, and here we are again. In just 48 hours, over the first summer weekend, mind you, and Father's Day, over 410 residents have signed a petition expressing their disapproval of building a bus depot, a garage behind Fort Washington. Almost 3 years, and as a community, we have no other properties in Upper Dublin that have been researched and shared and properly vetted, as in having the feasibility study, as we saw last Thursday. Dewey Engineer presented this study, estimating almost $7.9 million, of which we don't have, for a property that is just several dozen feet away from Fort Washington playgrounds and ball fields. He proposed to vote on this as early as August with no traffic study of pedestrian and vehicles during the school day. How can we vote on something in August when there is no traffic studies done during a school day? It truly is mind-blowing. During school drop-off hours and pickup hours, he showed a slide that had dozens of vehicles coming between the 8 and 9 o'clock hour, dozens of vehicles coming in the 3 o'clock hour, buses. That area is so congested. I have been walking up there for 9 years as a parent, bringing my kids there, and every change of crossing guard states how dangerous of an intersection it is. 5 weeks ago, my minivan, parked legally picking up my son, was completely damaged, is still in the shop because it was a landscaper working an hour away, rushing to get to the turnpike. There are no air quality studies for 550 students and staff. So tonight, minutes before our meeting, the bus depot is taken off the agenda because you knew that community members were here to express their deep concerns. At this moment, over 410 residents are asking questions. You know, we're appreciative of all of your volunteering time and your efforts. So many of us, as I stated earlier, volunteer all the time. And when a question is asked to us, we show the same respect to them and answer them in a timely manner. My time's going to run out tonight, so I please ask that you look at the petition that has been shared with you. Please let us work together. Please develop a task force, as we have done in the past when we looked at things like consolidating the grades to K-3 building and 4-5 building, or have a town hall where you can have community members come in. And please not during this summertime when people are on vacation, and especially after the year that we have had. So I'm going to begin to read some questions Of course, I'm going to run out of time, but I'm asking you questions that we need and deserve answers. What other properties within Upper Dublin have been considered to house transportation? Clearly, we have places in the office park. We need properties to be properly vetted. Which ones have these have been? When will a full feasibility study like the one done on Thursday be completed on other potential properties? When will air quality tests be conducted? How and where will they be conducted? We would like this to include all playgrounds and ball fields surrounding Fort Washington. We insist they be conducted during the calendar year, the school year, to represent accurate pollution and traffic patterns. When and what exact locations will multiple traffic studies be completed, pedestrian and vehicle alike, between 8 and 9:15, 3 and 4, over various school days? What scientific research are you using to make a clear decision for the safety of over 550 students and staff, as well as hundreds of households nearby that will be subject to this increased traffic and diesel fumes? My time's up. Knew it.
Thank you. And please make sure that we have, if any questions that you were not able to read, make sure that we have those as well. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Vitella.
Ginny Vitella Ambler. I'll help finish for her. Question number 6, 3.6 million of the 119 million of the referendum was approved and borrowed money, which was promised and planned to be used for a bus depot.
Excuse me for 1 second. I know we have policy. Mr. Diazio, what is our policy? I know we're not supposed to share comments, so can you?
I'm not sharing comments. These are my comments.
Oh, okay, I thought you said you were finishing for her.
Well, I know what her other questions are. So but they're my questions too. But now I've just lost 30 seconds. Thanks. 3.6, 3.6. Okay.
Seconds back.
Thank you. 3.6 million of the 119 million of the referendum approved and borrowed money was promised and planned to be used for a bus depot in 2008. We are still wondering where this money is and where it was used instead. Why was the bus depot not built on the proposed location in 2008? We have been paying rent for 13 years for a bus depot. Why has the discussion about what to build on 2 very controversial and unsafe locations just recently begun? When will these questions and community members' questions be answered? Along those lines, what Julie was talking about, this is big enough, and you've gotten Fort Washington specific community members in a disarray this weekend. Father's Day weekend with sports, the first week of the summer, and we got to notify people what's going on. And 3 minutes before community input, something's taken off the agenda. I have the printed agenda that I printed right before I went out to a game this evening, and it was still on there. So when we talk about disingenuous, it's not that we had this meeting from Thursday night. It's the fact that we weren't allowed to speak about an item that was on the agenda up until 3 minutes before community input. Okay, we didn't know it was taken off. So you could have just let the community speak at that time. People are very upset about this location and very willing to help look for other locations. So the major point of that is that this entire project has not properly been vetted. There has been zero analysis on various options, and so many unanswered questions remain even on this chosen location. Not to mention, of course, the $7.8 million price tag. And if you take that price tag at 2% interest over 20 years, you're paying $40,000 a month for it, which is more than we're paying now in rent. Now, rent, I know, is not a long-term solution, but maybe this isn't either. In 10 years, a gasoline-fired bus may be obsolete. And then what do we have? A huge garage by ball fields and playgrounds of elementary students. This area has been used as a car line area. This helps alleviate the traffic backup on Fort Washington Avenue and Highland Avenue that's been problematic and dangerous for years. And although a car parade was a new event added because of COVID, it is becoming a fun part of the promotion ceremony, and the hope will be to add it to the formal ceremony, not eliminate this new tradition. In addition, even though Fort Washington students can still use the Field of Dreams and Lockash, there will be a traffic and garage building to get around to access those fields. And even if you don't live in the Fort Washington area, this is a huge investment. The project is flawed with many unanswered questions and warrants much more discussion than an hour during a school board meeting that was jam-packed with budget talks, tax increase discussions, and approving over 25 line items for the expenditures of the 2022 school year. And I would have to say, for all the community members that may be on here that aren't in the Fort Washington area, I beg you to please go back and look how close this is to Fort Washington. Jarretttown has fields, Maple Glen has fields, Thomas Fitzwater has fields. Picture a huge four-bay garage right by those fields with all 50 plus buses in there, with fumes and everything else. I think everybody could be upset about this. And so I encourage this not to happen in August, not even happen after the school year. And to please have town halls research other properties. This is too big and we need to think forward and we need to be careful about what we're doing. This is a lot of money and it's a very controversial site. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brooke, Ms. Evans, do you see any other hands?
I do. Go ahead, Ms. Burns.
Hi, Lisa Burns from Fort Washington. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Back to the health and safety plan for next year. In the beginning part of the plan, it states that the district will take into account recommendations from 4 separate governing bodies: the CDC, the PA Department of Ed, the PA Department of Health, and Montgomery County Public Health Department. So my question is, how will final decisions get made when there's so many governing groups involved that possibly have conflicting recommendations? Will there be some precedence of one of these groups that we take as the main recommendation that we look to, or how will we deal with this next school year when one body is saying one thing, another governing body is saying something else? You know, how are we going to do that? Because it seems like each one's coming out with a different recommendation every other day. You know, for example, Montgomery County is now saying, Board of Health is saying, you know, mass optional for summer school, that kind of thing. And I'm not sure what the other departments are saying right now. I think some of them are saying not to do that. So 4 governing bodies seems like a lot to be able to line up. So I'd like to know how we're going to handle that. And then also within that top portion of the health and safety plan, it says that we will have in-person 5 days a week next year. I know we had a survey that went out to parents. I believe it was around the end of May, about a virtual school offering and how people felt about that. And I believe could give their decisions on what they thought they wanted or not wanted. So my question is, do we have, what will our final answer be on, will we be offering a virtual school next year, or will we not be offering a virtual school? And therefore it will only be in person or nothing. And if I missed that somewhere, I apologize, but I believe it was definitely decided no hybrid, but I don't have clarification on if we are offering a virtual only school. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brister, go ahead.
Thank you. Anita Brister, Fort Washington. I'll start with the bus garage, and I'll try not to be too repetitive, but I do want to agree with some of what's already been said. I definitely think it's a big enough issue. It's the cost was absolutely shocking last week. I mean, I'm one of doesn't like the location for a number of reasons. I think in a sad way, the district is actually considering ruining your own property, which just amazes me, because anybody who lives in this township knows you can't even move your shed 2 feet without the township telling you whether that's okay or not okay. So basically, the township has all kinds of rules about making sure whatever you do to your own property doesn't upset the look of the township or your neighbors, or, you know, all for good reason. And you're going to stick a bus garage right next to your own elementary school. Not a great idea. But basically, the cost was ridiculous, 7.8 million. I want to know specifically tonight, are you going to plan for a special meeting, a town hall meeting, whatever you want to call it? It needs to be a one topic meeting. Okay, as Ginny has pointed out, we still don't even know where that 3.6 million went. And I'm telling you, that's a huge problem, considering that the high school project went to a referendum. There's a very high bar. You cannot just move $3.6 million to something else. And I would also like to know if at that meeting, I'm assuming you're going to have one, it has to be September or after. It absolutely should not be in the summer when people are on vacation. I would like, as part of any presentation, to have information on outsourcing our transportation department. Without more information, I can't say if I'm in favor of it or not in favor of it, but I would certainly like to see an analysis of the cost. And I am aware of the fact that some districts basically do it over time. They transition to outsourcing. So I'd certainly like to see a budget analysis of that presented at a special meeting just for that. Earlier tonight, I was, my body language wasn't good, so maybe it's good. I'm not going to say it's good that we're not in person. But the bottom line is I would never, ever like to see an agenda item removed at the last minute. I'm one of the people that tries to take a good look at every meeting that I attend before the meeting. Sometimes it's 10 minutes before the meeting. Sometimes it's the afternoon of, if I'm lucky enough, it's the day before. But when you change it like that, it does certainly not lead to an atmosphere of transparency. And I thought that the whole budget process, and almost everything is part of the budget process. I thought one of the district's goals, specific goals this year, was supposed to be to bring more transparency to the budget process. So when you do an agenda switch like that, that's not transparent at all. And it goes back to a policy that was changed a couple of years ago, which I strenuously objected to, and so did a few other people, which is we used to have first and second community input for any and all topics that the taxpayer or resident had concerns about. And then that was switched, which was not a good idea from the policy committee. I don't really know why our administrators went along with it. We used to have first community input that if you needed to talk about something in general, like maybe you wanted to talk about the tax increase, but it wasn't going to be voted on that particular night, you could do that at the first community input. I'll use my last 5 seconds just to say the tax increase is too high. I feel we have a good surplus this year, which is great, but you're overtaxing us. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Brister.
I don't see any hands at the moment. Oh, I see one now.
Stop that.
Mr. Chabala, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Hi, Mark Chabala, Maple Glen. I spoke last month at the school board meeting and I raised a number of questions which have not been answered. Why was an Anatorium MOU implemented without school board review and approval? How was the MOU developed, revised, and signed while the school district was on state mandated shutdown? Why does this MOU not comply with the recently updated and approved school board policy? Why does the Natatorium MOU not give priority use to high school groups, while the Cardinal Stadium MOU does give priority to the high school groups? Why does every school in the state of Pennsylvania give high school groups priority over outside groups, but Upper Dublin does not? Why is Upper Dublin not following Pennsylvania Public State Code? A recent fallout from this MOU, in which all equipment was to be shared among the users, was that UDAC filed a police report last week that the water polo goals were taken from the facility. Yes, you heard that correctly. They filed a complaint with the Upper Dublin Police Department. That is interesting, considering that UDAC removed the water polo shot clocks last fall without permission, and the team did not have them to use for their entire season. Following the last school board meeting, a minor change to this natatorium schedule was made. I emailed this new schedule today to the board members. I will point out that Dr. Yanni increased the fall water polo practice space for 1 day. What that means is the water polo team has priority use of the facility for 1 day per week, and the other 4 days, they must continue to share the space with an outside group. All the teams, boys varsity and JV, along with the girls varsity and JV teams, must all practice together at the same time in the same space, which is 8 lanes of a pool or 1 regular water polo field of play. That is the equivalent of all of the high school basketball teams, boys, girls, varsity, and JV, all practicing on 1 court. And I am sure you're aware that never happens, nor does it happen for the other sports teams. In the past, a school board member has commented often about the natatorium being different and unique because it is much larger than the other practice spaces and was built as a multi-use facility. In fact, Dr. Yanni used the same argument recently when he stated that a full field is needed to play football, a full court is needed to play basketball. 15 lanes in a pool are not needed to practice or play water polo. On the surface, that could be construed as a valid point. So let's use that argument and look at the high school swim team, the closest comparator to the water polo team, as it uses the same practice facility and has the same number of participants. If you want to use Dr. Yanni's argument on practice space or the school board member's comment on a multi-use facility, then why don't we put the entire swim team into 6 lanes for their practice, which is a full field for a swim competition. Then you can have an outside group sharing the other half of the pool during their primary season and see how that goes over with the coaches, athletes, and parents. That's exactly how the water polo team is being treated here. I encourage the board members to take a closer look at this schedule and compare the 2 teams. Why does the swim team get to use the entire facility, but the water polo team only gets to use half? How is that equal? Why do 4 water polo teams have to practice in the space allocated normally to just 1 or 2 teams? When will the school board mandate that you follow your own policy? When will the school board finally get to step in and put a stop to the unequal treatment of Upper Dublin students? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Not seeing any other hands raised.
I am looking and I do not see any at the moment.
Okay, I think I will close community input at this time. And I think I'll turn it over to Dr. Yanni first. There were several items, including the water polo, health and safety plan, as well as the garage and town hall meeting. So if you could address those things.
All right, thank you, Dr. Davis. There were 2 written public comments.
Oh, I almost forgot about them. Thank you, Mr. Diazio.
So I'll go ahead and read them if that's okay at this time.
Absolutely.
All right, so the first one comes from Veronica Lambert, Fort Washington. And the comment reads, I attended the financial meeting last Thursday when the feasibility study of building the bus depot was presented and was stunned by the lack of care to investigate the potential adverse effects of fumes, traffic, and noise on the students at Fort Washington Elementary School. I have written emails to the board with questions and concerns awaiting a reply. I would like to please know the following. What was the process for considering other locations and who was involved? Are there other locations being considered currently? Will any other location receive a feasibility study? How much actual acreage do we need for the bus depot / garage? Why wasn't an air quality and traffic study part of the initial feasibility study? It cost us a lot of money and now we would have to pay more to have them done. What happens between now and August 24th when Mr. Arif said the board will vote? Are air quality and traffic studies going to be considered during this time? If so, does that make any sense since school is not in session and the traffic patterns aren't the same? Could the community help with finding an alternate site? Could we find donors and/or sponsors to help defray costs in order to make a better decision? As I mentioned on Thursday, our daughter suffers from a breathing disorder that causes her to cough uncontrollably, and one of the triggers for her VCD is exhaust from school buses. She also has asthma, as do many other children in the school. We need to protect these young kids' developing lungs and not make it worse. Please do not move forward with pursuing this space behind Fort Washington Elementary School and continue exploring other more industrial options for the safety and security of our children. The financial reasons cannot outweigh the health risks of our students. And the second public comment comes from Phelps Lambert from Fort Washington. And the comment reads, as a physician, I am concerned with two potential safety issues with the proposed bus depot. Number one, noise pollution. The buses may worsen the existing noise pollution from 309. This could affect not only the children at recess, but also classroom teaching, should the teacher wish to open his or her windows. And number two, exhaust inhalation. There are a good number of studies demonstrating a large amount of pollutants inhaled by children near idling school buses. I fear that having 50 plus or minus buses would negatively impact the health of children who have recess near the proposed depot. Furthermore, the exhaust may cause exacerbations of students' asthma and other health conditions. To summarize, I feel that if a location farther from children could possibly be found, that it would likely provide a safer option for the children's health. Thank you and good luck with your decision. I understand that it must be a challenging one. That concludes the written submissions for public comment this evening.
Right, thank you, Mr. Diazio. And now I'll turn it over to Dr. Yanni.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. There was a question asked about the health and safety plan being linked to 4 agencies: the CDC, the Montgomery County Office of Public Health, the Pennsylvania Department of Health, and the Pennsylvania Department of Education. So let's take Pennsylvania Department of Education off the table because they're only concerned with having a plan submitted. Montgomery County Office of Public Health has said that they will align their recommendations with the Pennsylvania Department of Health. So really we'll be looking at the CDC and the Pennsylvania Department of Health as the 2 primary drivers. We learned that earlier today. The representatives from the CDC and from PADOH have said that all decisions will be local decisions. So we have to consider the recommendations and then we have to employ the recommendations or in ways that fit our community. So unless there is a state mandate from the governor like we had this past year, there will be nothing hard and fast coming out from PADOH. Regarding virtual programming, we have a number of students that will be engaged in virtual programming for next year. We are looking at our staffing at the elementary level to accomplish that at the high school and middle school level. This past year, we engaged in concurrent teaching where the teacher taught students in front of them and students at home. And we're looking not to do that for next year unless it's completely unavoidable. But our numbers are very small for students and families seeking virtual programming for next year. I am aware of the change.org petition and the questions that have been included in that reason or in that petition. We will work on answering those questions and make sure that they're answered within the next week or so. Regarding a special meeting, if the board would like to have a special meeting sometime in the fall, obviously our administration is amenable to that. Regarding outsourcing transportation, there was a study done several years ago. One of the things when we start talking about outsourcing, when you have labor agreements in place and you have labor unions in place, you can only do that outsourcing when there is a lapse in a contract. More and more service providers, whether it's First Student, Eshelman's is trying to get into this area. They are requiring that districts have some sort of warehouse or facility where we park buses and where they would do the work. So we can definitely talk about what that looks like a little bit more in the fall if we want to do a town hall or a special meeting. Regarding the board action in August regarding the transportation facility. When Mr. Fazil presented his timeline last week, that was a tentative timeline. As I said in my superintendent's report, and it's been said a couple of times here in this meeting, there will be no action taken by the board. There's no timeline right now. I think the board has heard loud and clear, as has our administration, that decisions over the summer around this are not good. So the fall would really be the next time that we would be talking about it. Regarding water polo, it is the perennial issue that we have regarding the police report that was filed by UDAC. That was not something that the district had control over. That was a skirmish between UDAC and water polo. And while I would hope that we don't see something like that again, the district is not, in direct control over what either one of these groups do. There were some statements made this evening about priority use of the natatorium. And we will continue with the help of our new athletic director to work through those issues to make sure that our teams have the space that they need. I think one of the fundamental disagreements is what priority means. Priority does not equate to full use of the natatorium. And I know there's not universal agreement on that, but we will continue to work through that with our new athletic director. Thank you, Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Dr. Yanni. Any other comments from the board?
Dr. Davis, could I make one statement regarding a comment that was made during public comment?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to, before we leave the public comment section of the meeting, there were some statements made regarding non-compliance with law and with school board policy related to the use of the pool facility. And I wouldn't want any members of the board, the administrative team, or the public to leave this meeting with questions as to the accuracy of those statements or the merits behind them. And certainly different community members and different individuals may have different thoughts on what the use of the pool should be and what that should look like and what best practice might be and what the best procedure is for Upper Dublin. But I want to be very clear that the allegations, and they've been made in the past, about not following school board policy and not following the law, and those statements, they're just simply not true. There's no lack of compliance with the school board policy. The administration has consistently implemented the school board policy, and there's no violation of the school code or any other law as it relates to the use of the pool. And so I just want to make sure that's very clear as we leave the public comment section of tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diazio. Mr. Sirota.
Thank you. Just two brief things I'd like to say regarding the bus depot topic. One is, and I've said this before, others of us have said this before, real estate issues will not be discussed in public. So if other sites are under consideration, those sites will not be named until we're really ready to move ahead, because that undermines the ability of the district to negotiate a reasonable price if we were to purchase a facility. So other facilities will not be named ahead of time. However, I will say that we have been looking at other facilities. We will continue to look at other facilities, other locations, I should say, not other facilities. But we're not going to say until something is really ready to happen, or if something is really ready to happen, we're not going to say where those locations might be. The other thing I'd like to just clarify something Dr. Yanni said regarding the timeline moving ahead. We may talk about it in August if we have something to talk about in August. I think it's highly unlikely. I don't want to give an absolute no, but highly unlikely that we would move ahead with anything in August, not because it's the summer, but because I just don't think we'll be ready by then. The summer, the business of the school district, the business of the board does not stop over the summer. And school board meetings are for the purpose of the school board to conduct business. And if the timing of that business happens to be over the summer, that's when it will happen. But I am open to having a public, a town hall or some other forum about this in the fall. I think that's probably pretty good timing relative to where we are with all the topics anyway. We are not ready to have something like that now because we don't have enough information to share or to discuss right now. It's just too open-ended. So I would anticipate further discussion about this in the fall. I wouldn't promise it's not going to happen over the summer, but if it does happen over the summer, I think it's highly likely to be just discussion and not action. Thank you.
Okay. Any other last comments from the board? Okay. At this point, I just want to make everyone aware that our upcoming meetings will occur in August. The Finance Committee will meet on August 18th at 6 p.m. The Policy Committee will meet that same day, August 18th at 7:15 or immediately following the Finance Committee. And then finally in August on the 23rd, we'll have our legislative meeting at 7 p.m. I think we want to go back to our UDHS winter and spring sports recognition. Ms. Evans, is that ready to present?
Should be ready to present.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to recognize the Suburban One League Liberty Division champions. Tonight, we'll be acknowledging 2 teams from our winter season and 3 teams from our spring season, bringing our total to 6 division championships this school year. This success isn't possible without the hard work, commitment, and the sacrifices that our coaches and student athletes make in an attempt to produce a championship season. As a result, I would like to start off this evening by applauding all our team's efforts this past winter and spring seasons. The first team that I would like to recognize has been attending this meeting for 32 consecutive years, is the girls swimming and diving team. This year's team was coached by our new head coach, Brandon Pierce, and assisted by Chris Iani. The 2020-2021 girls swimming and diving team was led by captains Alanis Andrulonis and Molly Braun. Their leadership helped clinch a 32nd consecutive Suburban One League championship. At the district championship, the team placed 3rd overall. Top highlights from the meet included a 2nd place medley relay that included Megan DeMartile, Emma McCarthy, Molly Braun, and Grace McManus. Individually, Megan DeMartile was the district champ in the 100 backstroke for a 3rd consecutive year. At the state championship meet, the team placed 6th overall. The team was led by Megan DeMartile's 3rd consecutive state championship in the 100 backstroke. Megan also led the 200 medley relay to a 1st place finish. That relay included Emma McCarthy, Molly Braun, and Karina Pesti. Congratulations again to Coach Pierce, Coach Iani, and the girls on another impressive championship season. The next team has been attending this meeting for 26 consecutive years is the boys swimming and diving team. This year's team was once again coached by head coach Jeff Shire. In what amounted to about a half of a season in 2021, the UD boys swimming and diving team successfully defended their Suburban One League conference title for a 26th straight year. While truly a team effort, the squad was led by senior captains Aiden Keeler, Ashton Portnoy, and Michael Yoon. Those 3, along with Jonas Andrulonis, Connor Brennan, Michael Gierotowski, Jonathan Inn, Kyle Moon, Spencer Motenson, Julian Rocco, and Jack Vitella moved on to represent Upper Dublin at the District 1 Championship meet, where they finished 16th. Congratulations again to Coach Shire and the boys on another successful championship season. The next team we're recognizing this evening, the first from the spring season, is our girls track and field team. This year's team was coached by Matt Dwyer and assisted by Bridget Payton, Brian Flanagan, and Rob Miller. This year's girls track and team was dominant once again. They went undefeated through the regular season. They were small favorites going into the Liberty Division Championship meet. The girls were awesome, turning in a tremendous performance, scoring in 17 of the 18 events. Once it was all said and done, the girls won the championship meet by 100 points over the runner-up. This group of seniors leaves Upper Dublin having never lost an SOL dual meet or an SOL championship. Congratulations again to Coach Dwyer, his coaching staff, and the girls on all your success this season. The next team we are recognizing has claimed their place back at the top of the Liberty Division is our boys tennis team. The boys tennis team is coached by head coach Laura Ball and assisted by Lauren Gergen. After winning their first scrimmage over LaSalle, they went on to lose their next two matches versus Pennsbury and Radnor. It was early in the season, so we learned from it and made the adjustments to our lineup. From there, we went undefeated and never looked back. After winning our first district match, we moved on to play Radnor in the second round. It was a nail-biter, but we pulled out a 3-2 win and also secured a place in the state championship tournament. We entered the PIAA state tournament as a 3 seed, winning our first match 5-0 against Abington Heights. Unfortunately, we lost in the quarterfinals to Hershey, who went on to finish second in the state. As a result, all top 11 varsity players received Suburban 1 League Conference All-League honors. Congratulations again to Coach Ball, Coach Gergen, and the boys tennis team. The last team, rounding out the spring season, has turned in a historic performance, winning our first league championship in school history, is the boys volleyball team. This year's team was coached by head coach Paul Choi and assistant coach Richard Path. The Upper Dublin boys volleyball team had an incredible run this year and a historic season. After over a year of challenges and losing last year's season, these boys were able to keep their trust in each other, continue to work hard every day, and exceed all expectations. This team had a lot of firsts this season, and a huge reason for their accomplishments was through their team chemistry. This team was the first in school program to win the conference, first to not only win a playoff match, but to earn a trip to the district championship match, first to make states, and first to make their way to the quarterfinals in the state playoffs. The team ended with a 22-3 record. The team pursued excellence every single day and has set a new standard for Upper Dublin boys volleyball program. Congratulations again to Coach Choi, Coach Path, and the boys volleyball team. In closing, I would like to thank the Board of School Directors for their continued support of our athletic programs, as well as the Upper Dublin community. Thank you, and hope everyone has a great summer. Good evening.
Thank you for getting that together for us, Miss Evans. It was really
You're welcome.
great to hear all of that. So Dr. Yanni, I know this was, you were in charge of this presentation. So do you want to have any closing comments on it?
Yes, we'd like to congratulate all of our student athletes for their accomplishments during the winter and spring season, and we look forward to being able to celebrate our student athletes in person next year. And as Dr. Levinowitz said, we all look forward to seeing some in-person athletic events where we can cheer on our student athletes from the stands. So congratulations to them, and I hope everyone has a wonderful summer.
Thank you. So before closing this evening, I wanted to just take some time to thank the community for your support during this very challenging year. Our parents and our students have been absolutely amazing. And I also can't say enough about all of our school district employees who have gone above and beyond to support the mission of our district. And finally, I want to thank my fellow board members for their hard work and their dedication during this pandemic year. It was a challenge, but we made it through. So thanks again to everyone. Have a great summer. Be safe. And we'll see you in August. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Dr. Davis, good night.
Thank you.
Night, everyone. Bye.
Night.